not newbie to poems. It's the lovely AJ.
I am a newbie towards the Ferret. Actually, this is the second time I've ever come to the Ferret. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context for my poem. So this is my first collection of poetry. It's called Full Nelson. And after I came back into the area, into Lancashire after COVID, or during COVID, I decided to write a poetry collection about my hometown. So I really measured my town and looked at it and everything that it was and where it came from and the reason that I'm there and the reason that I came back there. So I wrote this collection called Full Nelson. It's picked up by a local publisher who decided to publish it for me. And so when I published this, my local council came to me and they were really intrigued about the collection. So I gave them all the backlog to it and they were like, can you write more poems for us? And I was like, God damn, I've just written a whole collection. How do you expect me to write more? So I'm not going to read any poems for this, but I give you the context for that. So they did ask me to write some poems for my hometown, and so I came from Nelson. So I wrote this poem for Nelson. It took me a long time to write, and I might edit it while I'm reading it just to make it fit with Preston, right? And so how I got to writing this poem was they asked me to respond to the theme of World Poetry Day 2024, which was How I Love Thee. And I really struggled with the idea of how do I really love Nelson, because as I said, I'd just written that whole collection. So I asked my mum, I said, Mum, how do you love this town? What do you feel about this town? She said, this town is a really tight-knit town. And I really like the idea of it being tight-knit. And so I took that idea and I ran with it. And this is the poem that came. It's called, This Town is an Old Hand-Me-Down Sweater. This fleece was hand-shorn by a sheep herder's hands, whose flock roamed these dreamy Lancashire lands. At Lomisher Mill, the process began, rolled into rovings, combed, carded and then dyed, then spun into wool, the fibres crossed lengthwise. It was sold at Preston Market, a penny a yard or a pound a ball, with a deep regard grandma knitted ours from a single yarn. We all wore it and accepted it as ours, a hand-me-down sweater we each made our own, insulating and warm, as snug as a home, as big as a town, a garment we could grow around. We took it to every street and to the playground. It grew as we grew, like a boundary. We pulled threads out to the edge like a foundry. My father wore it to the sheet metal factory. Wild and free, my brother wore it on nights to the ferret. My mother tore it to rags whilst cleaning the singer, and my sister mimed and danced to Spice Girls in the mirror. I wore it too, its sleeves around my waist like an embrace, or draped over my back, both arms over my shoulders like a cape, or scrunched on the ground, a goalpost at play, or a blanket on a warm summer's day. It was passed down to friends and neighbours too, who wore it through winters and made it through. It was made to endure, layered with care and love, shared around this town like a little song, a harmony where every voice belonged. This is our sweater, frayed and bored with holes, elbows patched from scrapes and stitched at the seams, a tea-stained front mixed with whiskey and cream. But we've worn it well to tatters and tears, tallies and tales, we've got some stories to tell. Still, we keep these threads as they unravel and we restitch them new, a patchwork blanket of everyone we knew. So for those who travel or decide to stay, here's an old hand-me-down in the shades of Preston town. Oh. Sorry, I'm going to do the really awful poet thing and read off my phone a little. So, I've got this poem. So I work with a lot of children and I teach a lot of children how to write poetry. And so because a lot of my poetry is quite measured. And so I wrote this poem to connect with kids. Can I ask anyone in the audience, has anyone got a pet? Who has it? What have you got? What have you got? What have you got?
Tortoise.
A tortoise? A really interesting pet, actually.
3 cats.
3 cats. Well, I'll tell you now, none of you have got the pet that I have. Because I have a pet dragon. I keep him in my top pocket. Hang on, sorry. I have a pet dragon. He's tiny, but his eyes are wide. I keep him in my top pocket at all times. They pop out of his sockets like he's looking for flies. Around the clock, he likes to keep watch with a hunger in his eyes. He's little and green, the cutest thing you've ever seen. But don't say that to him, because he gets shy and turns pink. He poos and he stinks, but I still love him to bits. If he ever turns red, well, that means he'll have your head quicker than you can get out of bed, because he does get angry, scarier than my auntie. And that's when you can get burned, you see. Sometimes he's burgundy, ready to turn on me, but when his face turns black, he's ready to attack. All you see is a blast, all you see is a flash, and it's a fire and alarm, but you can calm him with a smack. A snack. He's sure to gobble it all back and sit back, rubbing his tummy, looking all fat. And when he turns gold, he's safe to hold, and he'll do what he's told. But when he's purple, he goes inside himself like a turtle and gets all philosophical, colours changing like a chameleon at a carnival, but that's just topical, all tropical. When he's brown, he's nice to be around. You can hear his little purring sound and carry him about the town. But sometimes he turns blue, and that's when he speaks the truth, tells me I'm being a big old brute. And they say that nothing rhymes with orange. But when he's orange, he's as ripe as a fruit, a good old cahoot, laughing me out my boots, as sweet as a tooth when he's yellow, all mellow, a lovely little fellow, never giving me any sorrow. He's all the colours of the rainbow and more, an artwork galore I can take wherever I go. Yes, that's my very own pet dragon, and no, you can't have him. I felt really bad reading out. I don't really like to read off the paper, but so this poem I wrote for the Canal and River Trust. It's my favourite poem that I've ever written, and I'm really happy that this poem came to me. It's called Be Like the River. From the mountain top, catch the downpour and flow gently down. Don't stop. You can't stop. Follow the pines as they rise along rich valleys and climb over hills and slip down again by the city where people will gladly pull pails of water from your side. Be like the river and give as a giver. For the water taken doesn't take, and the loss is again, and the waters will come back to fill you full of feeling. So like the river, go forth fulfilled and run out into the open, alongside countryside, giving water to all you pass. And follow yourself to the place that you dam, and overflow into a pool or a lake, and lay still in winter freeze, and melt warm in summer heat, and move fiercely in spring, sprung like flowers and ferns on the left bank. Be like the river where men make camp and children play and splash in the waters, and women wade out to fish the fish and to catch the trout and to sift the gold out of the wet folds of earth beneath you, your golden bed. Be like the river where the deer come silently for their morning waters, and where wary foxes arrive deep in the night scavenging, and where swallows dip mid-flight to quench their thirst and wait still as the lions approach and crouch to lap bloody tongues at your surface with purpose. Be like the river, and when you cry, cry into yourself, and when you overflow, let others drink. And when you are heavy with sediment, that of yourself and that of others, you will know strength, and you will flow still with force out to the sea, out to the ocean, and back to the source. Be like the river. Thank you.
I do believe he has a little pile of books. Potentially, can we have a chat to him about his books?
I do. My book is
I am going to take a short break now, and then after that, there's going to be a bit of a family affair. Me, and my mum, and my dad. So get your drinks, get your bags out of the way. Have a wee. I'll see you in a minute.